The secret language of mushrooms has finally been decoded by scientists using AI. That's the headline everyone is talking about. They claim to have found a vocabulary of up to 50 words in the electrical chatter of fungi. But what if that incredible story is just a cover for something even more profound? The truth behind the talking mushrooms is not what it seems. We're going to uncover the actual science, the mind-bending reality of fungal intelligence, and the one crucial detail the headlines conveniently left out that will make you question everything. 50 Words of Silence. The story that has everyone buzzing begins deep underground, in the damp, dark world where mushrooms thrive. For a long time, the idea of fungi talking was just a neat fantasy, something out of a fairy tale. You see, people were inspired by the massive, intricate networks that fungi create, a sprawling web of tiny threads called mycelium, often nicknamed the Wood Wide Web. These networks connect trees and plants in a silent, symbiotic dance, trading nutrients and sending warnings. But the viral claim that has taken over the internet stems from a 2022 study by a British computer scientist named Andrew Adamatsky. It was published in a prestigious journal, the Royal Society Open Science, which gave it a stamp of legitimacy. What many overlooked is how the study was actually conducted. Far from using some futuristic AI to have a conversation with a mushroom, Adamatsky's team did something much more old school. They carefully inserted tiny electrodes into 4 different species of fungi: the beautiful pink oyster, the common oyster, the Japanese namako, and the woody reishi mushroom. Then, for hours, sometimes even for days, they just listened. They recorded the fungi's electrical spiking activity, these tiny bursts of voltage changes that ripple through the mycelial network. To put it mildly, these spikes are a lot like the nerve impulses in animals, but fungi pull this off without a brain or a central nervous system. It's a decentralized intelligence network that spans entire forests, with some mycelial networks covering thousands of acres, making them the largest organisms on Earth. Just one of these networks in Oregon covers over 2,200 acres and is estimated to be thousands of years old. The major finding was this: when the scientists grouped these electrical spikes into words based on their patterns, like how Morse code uses dots and dashes, they found that the fungi produced up to 50 distinct words. The length of their sentences changed depending on the species. For example, the reishi mushroom formed about 15 to 20 words, with each word averaging around 4 spikes. The common oyster mushroom, on the other hand, was a bit chattier, creating 28 to 36 words that were a bit shorter, averaging just over 2 spikes each. This is where it gets really interesting. Adamatsky used linguistic analysis, the same kind of math used to study human languages, to examine these patterns. He measured the size of their vocabulary, the entropy of the words, which is a fancy way of saying how surprising or unpredictable the next word is, and even checked if it followed something called Zipf's law. This law states that in any language, the most frequent word will occur about twice as often as the second most frequent word, 3 times as often as the third, and so on. Amazingly, the fungal patterns were shockingly similar to human speech. The complexity was estimated to be around that of Welsh or Cornish dialects, which strongly suggested this was structured information, not just random electrical noise. But here's the kicker, the part the viral headlines don't tell you. There was no AI involved in decoding anything. This was pure mathematical pattern recognition. The study itself even warns people not to get carried away, stating that while these electrical spikes seem to be linked to things happening in the mushroom's environment, like finding a new food source, we can't actually translate them into any specific meaning. We certainly haven't unlocked a secret language. What we see online, however, are dramatic videos claiming scientists have found a hidden code, but they conveniently leave out the analog methods. The truth is, while fungal communication is a type of electrical wizardry, it's more like a survival-based Morse code than a Shakespearean sonnet. But if it's not a language, then what are these mysterious signals really for? How forests really talk. The thing nobody tells you is that the real communication happening in forests is far more complex and ancient than a few electrical spikes. Long before humans invented the internet, Earth had its own version, a biological superhighway made of fungi. This is the Wood Wide Web, and it's not a metaphor. It's a physical reality that connects 90% of all land plants. This network is made of mycelium, the vast branching body of the fungus that lives underground. The mushrooms we see are just the fruiting bodies, like apples on a tree. The real action is happening in a sprawling, microscopic web that can contain up to 8 miles of mycelial threads in a single cubic inch of topsoil. This isn't a passive network, it's a bustling marketplace and a rapid-fire alert system. You see, fungi and plants have a powerful partnership called a mycorrhizal relationship. The fungus, which can't produce its own food, taps into the roots of trees and plants. In exchange for the sugars the plants make through photosynthesis, the fungus extends the plant's root system by hundreds of times, acting like a massive sponge that pulls in water and essential nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus from the soil. A single tree can be connected to dozens of other trees, even trees of different species, through this shared fungal network. It's a collaborative, socialist society hidden right under our feet. What many have overlooked is that this network transmits more than just food. Scientists have tracked how trees use this fungal internet to send distress signals. When one tree is attacked by pests, like aphids, it sends out chemical alarm signals through the mycelium to its neighbors. The nearby trees receive this warning and ramp up their own chemical defenses before the pests even arrive. They can also share resources. A mother tree, a large, well-established tree in a forest, can send excess carbon and nutrients to younger, shaded saplings that are struggling to get enough sunlight, effectively nursing them through their early years. This system is so sophisticated that trees can even recognize their own kin and will preferentially send nutrients to their offspring. So how does this relate to the idea of a mushroom language? While Adamatsky's study focused on electrical signals, the primary way fungi talk is through a rich cocktail of chemical compounds. They release hormones and signaling molecules to find mates, ward off competitors, and negotiate trades with plants. It's a language of chemistry, not electricity. Think of the electrical spikes as the network's basic on or off signals, like the hum of a computer, while the chemical signals are the actual data, the emails and messages being sent back and forth. For example, some fungi can lay down a trail of toxins to create a no-go zone for other competing fungi, essentially claiming territory. They wage a silent, slow-motion war for resources, all orchestrated by chemical warfare. This chemical language is incredibly nuanced, with different compounds meaning different things. So, the idea of a 50-word vocabulary based on electrical pulses, to put it mildly, barely scratches the surface. The real fungal lexicon is likely made up of thousands of chemical words. The mystery isn't whether fungi communicate, it's the sheer scale and complexity of that communication that we are only just beginning to grasp. But if AI isn't decoding their language, what is it actually being used for? The mushroom mind and the machine. While the story of AI translating mushroom language is more fiction than fact, artificial intelligence is still playing a revolutionary role in the world of mycology. It's just happening in ways that are less sensational, but in the long run, far more important. The real partnership between AI and fungi isn't about conversation. It's about discovery and application. Many people are crazy about apps that can identify plants and animals from a photo, and this is one of the most visible uses of AI in this field. Fungi can be notoriously difficult to identify, with thousands of species that look alike, and many that are dangerously toxic. AI-powered apps like iNaturalist use machine learning algorithms trained on millions of images to identify mushroom species with an accuracy rate of over 95%. This is putting the power of a professional mycologist into everyone's pocket. But that's just the start. The thing nobody tells you is that fungi are one of the greatest sources of medicine on the planet. Penicillin, the world's first antibiotic, came from the Penicillium mold. Statins, the cholesterol-lowering drugs used by millions, were derived from fungi. The kingdom of fungi is a treasure trove of powerful chemical compounds, but with over 5 million estimated species, we've only explored a tiny fraction of them. This is where AI comes in. Scientists are now using AI to sift through the genetic code of fungi at incredible speeds. The AI can predict which genes are responsible for producing interesting compounds, flagging them for further study. This is accelerating the discovery of new antibiotics, antiviral drugs, and even potential cancer treatments. It's like having a super-intelligent research assistant that can read a mushroom's DNA and highlight the most promising chapters. What many have overlooked is the potential of fungi in robotics and network design. A 2025 study actually used the electrical spiking patterns of oyster mushrooms to inspire new, adaptive algorithms for swarm robots. Mycelial networks are masters of finding the most efficient path between points to transport nutrients, and they can repair themselves when damaged. By mimicking this decentralized, self-healing logic, engineers can design more resilient communication networks, better supply chains, and even swarms of drones that can navigate disaster sites without a central commander. Imagine biohybrid systems, fungi themselves acting as living sensors in smart soils, with their electrical chatter being parsed by an AI to give farmers real-time data on water levels, nutrient deficiencies, or the presence of disease. Furthermore, AI is helping us understand the massive ecological role of fungi. Mycelial networks are responsible for sequestering an estimated 13 megatons of carbon every single year, which is a significant chunk of the world's fossil fuel emissions. By using AI to model how these networks grow and interact with different soil types and climates, scientists can better predict the impacts of climate change and even develop strategies to enhance the carbon-storing power of our soils. AI isn't talking to mushrooms. It's helping us understand their silent, world-shaping work. The real story is that AI is the key to unlocking the practical magic of fungi, from medicine to material science and climate solutions. This leads to an even deeper, more mind-bending question. If they are this complex, are they intelligent? Are we underestimating life? The discovery of complex communication networks naturally leads to a provocative question. If fungi can communicate, can they think? The idea of a fungal mind sounds bizarre, but a growing number of scientists are seriously exploring the concept of fungal intelligence. You see, we tend to associate intelligence with brains and central nervous systems, but nature is full of examples of intelligence that look nothing like our own. Think of a slime mold, a single-celled organism that can solve mazes and remember the location of food sources, or a colony of ants where no single ant is in charge, yet together they achieve incredible feats of engineering. This is decentralized intelligence, and fungi might be the ultimate masters of it. The thing nobody tells you is that fungi have demonstrated behaviors that look a lot like learning and memory. In famous experiments, a slime mold, which is not technically a fungus but exhibits similar network intelligence, was able to find the shortest possible route through a maze to reach a food source. It did this by growing its network to fill the entire maze, then retracting the branches that led to dead ends, reinforcing the most efficient pathway. What's even more incredible is that when scientists repeatedly exposed the slime mold to a puff of cold air, it initially recoiled, but eventually learned that the stimulus was harmless and stopped reacting. It had formed a memory, a habit, without a single neuron. Mycelial networks show similar problem-solving abilities. They make decisions about where and how to grow based on a constant stream of information from their environment. They can sense gravity, light, and a huge range of chemical signals to navigate the complex underground world. When a mycelial network encounters a block of wood, it assesses its nutritional value and decides whether to invest the energy to decompose it. Some researchers argue that the entire network functions as a single, massive sensory organ, processing information and making decisions collectively. To put it mildly, the network itself is the brain, distributed across acres of soil. There is no head, no command center, just a constant flow of information and response that gives rise to intelligent, adaptive behavior. This forces us to expand our definition of what intelligence even is. Is it about consciousness and self-awareness? Or is it simply the ability to process information and solve problems to promote survival? If it's the latter, then fungi are undeniably intelligent. They have been successfully navigating their world and shaping entire ecosystems for over 1 billion years, long before the first animals ever crawled onto land. They are the planet's great survivors, decomposers, and connectors. Many people are crazy about the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, sending radio signals into the vastness of space. But what if a truly alien intelligence has been here all along, living in a different state of matter, on a different timescale, right under our noses? So, if we take a step back, what is the ultimate truth behind the talking mushrooms? What the forest knows. So, let's bring this all back down to Earth. People watching this are probably wondering, did all this really happen overnight? Are scientists actually having conversations with fungi now? It sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, doesn't it? The idea that we've decoded the secret language of mushrooms with artificial intelligence is the kind of headline that spreads like wildfire online. But the truth, as usual, is a bit more grounded, though no less amazing. The viral claim traces back to research by Professor Andrew Adamatsky at the University of the West of England. His study found that certain fungi produce tiny electrical impulses, spikes that vary in frequency and pattern. When he analyzed those signals, he noticed something remarkable. Some patterns resembled the structure of human language. Naturally, that made headlines everywhere. Mushrooms talk. Scientists crack the fungal code. But here's the catch. Adamatsky never actually translated those spikes, nor did he prove they represent words, grammar, or syntax. They simply looked like language patterns. What he really found was a fascinating, mysterious kind of bioelectric communication, not a literal conversation. So no, scientists aren't sitting around chatting with shiitakes or asking toadstools for forest gossip. The AI translation idea that exploded across social media is, for the most part, a myth. A blend of excitement, misunderstanding, and our natural tendency to imagine nature in our own image. But that doesn't mean the truth is disappointing. In fact, once you strip away the hype, the real story is far more profound and awe-inspiring. Because fungi do communicate, and they've been doing it long before humans ever spoke a single word. Under our feet lies a vast living network known as the mycorrhizal web. It's made up of microscopic fungal threads called hyphae, which intertwine with plant roots and connect entire ecosystems. Through this underground network, trees, shrubs, and even grasses exchange nutrients, share chemical signals, and warn each other of danger. It's often called the Wood Wide Web. And it's not just a metaphor. This system functions like an organic internet, routing information, balancing resources, and sustaining the delicate equilibrium of life in forests. When a tree is attacked by pests or disease, it can send out distress signals through its fungal partners. Neighboring trees, even of different species, can receive that warning and activate their chemical defenses in response. Meanwhile, fungi benefit too. They draw sugars from plants in exchange for helping roots absorb water and minerals more efficiently. It's a partnership so ancient and sophisticated that it reshaped life on land hundreds of millions of years ago. Without fungi, the first plants might never have survived outside the oceans. Think about that for a second. Every forest, every patch of soil, every blade of grass exists thanks to this silent, invisible collaboration. Fungi aren't just supporting life, they are the infrastructure of life. And here's where AI comes back into the story, not as a translator of mushroom gossip, but as a magnifying lens. Artificial intelligence is allowing scientists to analyze fungal DNA, decode their biochemical pathways, and understand how these organisms interact with ecosystems at a molecular level. Machine learning models are being used to track fungal growth patterns, predict environmental changes, and even identify species that could help fight climate change by storing carbon underground. So yes, AI is helping us listen to fungi, but not in the way clickbait headlines suggest. It's giving us the tools to interpret a vast, ancient system that communicates through chemistry, not words. And what a chemical language it is. Fungi release an enormous variety of compounds, enzymes, acids, and signaling molecules that can attract, repel, nurture, or destroy. Some of these chemicals trigger the germination of seeds. Others break down rock to create fertile soil. Others still serve as weapons in microbial warfare. To call this system a language isn't exactly wrong. It's just poetic. It's a language written in molecules, encoded in biology, and spoken by every living thing that depends on the soil beneath it. That's what makes the fungal world so endlessly fascinating. These organisms don't have brains, yet they exhibit behaviors that look intelligent. They can solve mazes, find the shortest path to food, and self-organize into massive, efficient networks that rival our most advanced technologies. Their collective behavior follows the same mathematical principles that govern neural networks and traffic systems. It's decentralized intelligence at its purest, a form of computation that nature mastered long before humans invented computers. And while that may sound abstract, its effects are tangible and everywhere. The bread we eat, the beer we drink, the medicine we take, all owe their existence to fungi. They're the invisible chemists that recycle life's building blocks. Without them, dead leaves wouldn't decay, fallen trees wouldn't return nutrients to the soil, and the planet would drown in its own debris. Fungi are nature's cleanup crew, architects, and recyclers, all rolled into one. Even the air we breathe carries their influence. Forest fungi help regulate global carbon levels by breaking down organic matter and storing carbon underground. Some species can even digest plastics and radioactive waste, offering hope for a cleaner future. Scientists are already experimenting with fungal materials to build sustainable packaging, clothing, and even architecture. Mycelium, the root-like structure of fungi, can grow into lightweight, durable forms that might one day replace plastics or concrete. It's not an exaggeration to say that fungi could be key players in the next industrial revolution, one that's biological instead of mechanical. So when people joke about talking to mushrooms, maybe they're not entirely wrong, just thinking too literally. What we're actually learning is to recognize the conversation that's been happening around us for hundreds of millions of years. Every forest, every blade of grass, every handful of dirt is alive with information exchange. Life is constantly negotiating, sharing, and adapting through the fungal networks that bind it all together. And perhaps that's the deeper message in all this. We humans tend to define intelligence by how closely it mirrors our own speech and logic. But the more we study fungi, the clearer it becomes that intelligence isn't limited to brains or words. It can emerge anywhere complexity meets connection. The fungal kingdom shows us that awareness and organization can arise in systems we don't yet fully understand. They teach us that communication can exist without conversation and cooperation without consciousness. So, no, scientists haven't cracked some secret fungal dictionary or built a translator for mushroom Morse code. What they've uncovered is something even more extraordinary. A glimpse into a planet-wide web of life, humming with information, sustains every breath we take. Fungi are not just the background actors of nature, they're the foundation. They created the soil beneath our feet, nourish the plants that feed us, and recycle the dead so the living can thrive. They're not whispering to us in words. They're showing us, in every spore and root and molecule, how interconnected everything truly is. The myth of talking mushrooms might fade, but the wonder it sparked shouldn't. Because the truth is far stranger, far older, and far more beautiful than the fiction. We are living on a planet that speaks in the quiet, ancient language of life itself, and fungi are the ones carrying the signal. If fungi operate with a collective intelligence that sustains entire ecosystems, does this mean the forest itself is a single, conscious organism? Let us know what you think below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more mind-bending science.